Okay, so this video is going to be about simplifying proper fractions. I put it in all caps. Proper fractions are ones where the numerator is smaller than the denominator. So that means it's less than one whole. Like we were talking about earlier where, any number over itself equals one whole. Saying if we had a pizza and we split it up into 6 parts, and we had all 6 parts, it's one whole. If we split it up into 42 parts and had all 42, it's still one whole. So proper fraction is going to be anything where it's either 1 or less. So 5/6 would be proper, but 7/6 would not, because that's saying we split up a pizza into 6 parts, but we have 7 parts. That's more than one whole pizza. Okay? So going back to our problem, we're just going to solve it like normal. Just go straight across, just like we've been doing. 1 times 2 equals 2. And then we've got 3 times 4 equals 12. Okay, so there's a number of ways, I'll show you what we're doing. What we have to do is divide the numerator and the denominator by the same number, okay? Because if we're doing divided by a number over number, again, that equals 1. So the value of our fraction is going to be the same, but the numbers are not. So that is to say, if we have 1/2 of a pizza or 3/6 of a pizza, if you have 3 out of 6 slices, you still have half the pizza. But that's just a more complicated way of saying you have half of it. So that's why we're saying we're simplifying it, okay? So what I like to do is just go through starting at 2, because if I did divided by 1 and divided by 1, it'd still be 2/12. Starting at 2, and just see which numbers can go into both the numerator and the denominator. So 12 divided by 2, that divides evenly, so I'm thinking 2 could work. And then 2 divided by 2, that also divides evenly. So I'm going to use 2, okay? 2 divided by 2 is 1, and 12 divided by 2 is 6. So I just divided both of these numbers by a number that divided evenly. So if I tried to do 12 divided by 5, that wouldn't work because that doesn't divide evenly. I can divide it with, point whatever, but we need something that divides evenly. We're already talking about something that's less than 1. 1/6 is less than 1, so I don't want decimals and whatnot. So 12 divided by 2 is 6, and 2 divided by 2 equals 1. So 2/12 and 1/6 are the same value, okay? But this is just the most simple way of saying it, okay? So let's try another problem. 2 times 6 equals 12. 3 times 8 is equal 24. Okay?
Excellent.
So now there's multiple numbers now that will divide evenly. Okay? So we can use the smallest number, but we're going to have to do it multiple times. Since a lot of the kids feel comfortable using the smallest number, I'll show that to you first, okay? So I skip 1, because that would just be the same. And now I'm going to go straight on to 2. 12 divided by 2. Does that divide evenly? Yes. 24 divided by 2. Does that divide evenly? Yes. Now, if your kids are having some trouble with their multiplication division facts, you can think, does something times 2 equal 12? Because multiplication and division are kind of reversible. So 12 divided by 2 is going to equal 6. But 6 times 2 equals 12. Okay? So one way and then the other, they're reversible. 12 divided by 2 is 6. 6 times 2 is 12. So if you're more comfortable with multiplication than division, try doing it backwards. Is something times 2 equal 12? Does something times 3 times 4 equal 12? Okay? But we'll go with 2. For right now, divided by 2, divided by 2. Okay, 12 divided by 2 we said is 6. is 6. Now, what times 2 equals 24? 12 times 2 equals 24. Okay, so that means I know 24 divided by 2 equals 12. They're inverse operations, okay? So now, if I want to check if this is the last stop, okay, if this is as far as it can go, I'm just going to try the same thing and see if I can find anything that will divide by both of them evenly, okay? So we're skipping 1. Does 2 divide by 6? Well, 3 times 2 equals 6, so yes. Does 2 divide by 12? 6 times 2 equals 12, so yes. So that means I'm not done. If there's something that will divide into both of these evenly, then I'm not done simplifying. So just like last time, I'm going to go with 2. It's always a good place to start, especially if you get a bigger number. So 6 divided by 2 is going to be 3, and 12 divided by 2 is 6. Okay, so this is looking better. We need to figure out if we're done. So I'm going to go ahead and see if there's something else. So I'm skipping 1 and trying 2. 3 divided by 2. Well, is there something times 2 that equals 3? 1 times 2 equals 1. 2 times 2 equals 4. So no, there's nothing times 2 that equals 3. There is something times 2 that equals 6. But since it doesn't divide into both of those equally, I can't use 2. So let's try 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1. And 6 divided by 3 is 2. So I know I can use 3. Okay, so 3 divided by 3 is 1. 6 divided by 3 is going to be 2. And that gives me 1/2. Now, I can't go any farther because my numerator is 1. What times something equals 1? Well, it's going to be 1 times 1. So I know that I am done here and I have my answer. Now, that may have seemed long and arduous, but this is how most of our kids have to do it because they're not as familiar with their math facts. Now, if you're pretty familiar with your math facts, you can come back here. You've got 12 over 24. Okay. Well, I know that I can divide that by 12. Okay. 12 divided by 12 equals 1. And 24 divided by 12 equals 2. So the more familiar your child is with their multiplication facts, the more comfortable they're going to be with these numbers. They're going to see this pattern right off the bat. Maybe you or I immediately think, oh, 12 and 24. I associate those numbers because I know that 12 times 2 is 24. So you might see that pretty clearly. But if your child's not very familiar with their math facts, they're going to have a harder time picking out those kind of the correlating numbers, the numbers that are in a fact family that have a relationship together, okay? So it's not to say that they can't do it, because your child is more than capable of dividing by 2. They might have to do it over and over to get their answer. And I tell them, be resourceful, use what you know. But if they can't get more familiar, they'll be able to do this instead of that. Okay? So hopefully that makes sense. All you're doing is getting your answer, and then you find a number that will divide evenly with both the numerator and the denominator. Okay? It will divide evenly. Please let me know if you have any questions. I know that this is a little hard to explain over video, so if you have any questions, please feel free to call, text, or email me.